So, the Namibia Statistics Agency recently released data on Namibia's economic performance during the first quarter of 2019. And spoiler alert, things aren't looking too rosy at the moment. It's no secret that the country's economy has taken a hit the last few years, recording negative growth in both 2017 and 2018. So what kind of start are we off to in 2019? Well, in this video, we'll summarize everything you need to know about Namibia's economic activity in the first quarter of 2019, and also tell you some of the economic events to look out for during the rest of the year. The first thing we'll look at is the economic growth, or in this case, the lack thereof. The Namibian economy contracted by 2% in the first quarter of 2019, as compared to the first quarter of 2018, which also saw a contraction of 0.5%. Considering that the negative growth observed in the first quarter of 2019 is more severe than the first quarter movements in each of the last 2 years, and that Namibia went on to observe negative growth in both those years, it's safe to say that 2019 is off to a worrying start. A little more insight becomes apparent when you take a look at the individual sectors of the Namibian economy and how they've fared over the period. More than half of the sectors experienced negative growth, which indicates that the country's current economic slump is widespread in nature and not concentrated in a few specific sectors. Namibia is highly reliant on its primary sectors, being the mining and quarrying, fishing, and agriculture. Those three sectors alone contributed 21.2% to Namibia's GDP in 2018, so their performance is always a good indicator for how healthy the Namibian economy is. Out of the three sectors, only fishing recorded a slight growth of 1.1%, with agriculture and mining both observing contractions of 6.7% and 1.1% respectively. The slump in agriculture was to be expected, with Namibia experiencing one of its worst droughts in recent memory, the severity of which prompted government to suggest a once-off drought relief levy of 2% on the salaries of Namibian citizens. It's safe to say that idea wasn't well received. Although ravaged by the drought, agriculture wasn't the hardest hit sector in the first quarter of 2019. That would be the construction sector, which has been hammered, so to speak, since the onset of the recession, recording a contraction of 27.8% in the first quarter of 2019. Compared to 2015's first quarter construction output just 5 years ago, construction output has declined by roughly 59%. Ouch. It wasn't all bad in the first quarter though, with a few industries recording slight positive growth. Manufacturing most of all, posting growth of 3.6%, with the electricity and water sector in close second with a growth of 2.7%. The second big thing we'll look at is the trade balance, which looks at Namibia's imports versus its exports over the period. Surprisingly, Namibia had a trade surplus in the first quarter of 2019, exporting 117 million Namibian dollars worth of goods more than it imported, which sounds great on the surface, but the true nature of the surplus is a lot less pleasant. The primary reason for the surplus is a drastic decline in imports and not a sudden growth in Namibian export volumes, particularly imports of capital goods such as machinery and equipment, which fell from 5.1 billion in the second quarter of 2018 to 2.3 billion in the first quarter of 2019, a decline of roughly 55%. And if you're thinking, well, maybe we're manufacturing the capital goods ourselves, that's not the story the numbers tell, because manufacturing activity grew by only 13% over that same period. So we're not producing the goods ourselves, we're just not producing as much, period. So, what's the conclusion? Namibia's first quarter numbers are sobering and do nothing to hide the country's current economic woes. But there's still 3 quarters left in the year, so here are some of the things to look out for in the quarters to come. 1. South Africa's economic performance. South Africa, one of Namibia's largest trade partners, posted an even steeper contraction of 3.2% in the first quarter of 2019. So any recovery from them during the course of the year would bode well for Namibia's economy as well. 2. Namibia's presidential elections later this year. It'll be interesting to see what kind of economic impact the elections have. At this point, your guess is as good as ours. So what do you think Namibia should do to get out of its current economic slump? Let us know in the comment section below. Also, if you enjoyed this video and found it educational, leave a like below and share with your friends and family so they don't get left out of the important conversations too. Until next time, remember, learn, connect, grow.